There are moments in life when silence becomes heavier than sound, when what is unseen begins to speak louder than anything we can hear. In the world of animal care, those moments often arrive too late, when neglect has already shaped a story written on a dog's body through pain, stress, and suffering that could have been prevented. Veterinarians and educators like Dr. Karen Becker have spent years reminding us that the condition of a dog's coat is not simply cosmetic, but a reflection of internal health, comfort, and emotional stability. Yet one of the most overlooked and devastating conditions remains severe matting, a silent progression that transforms soft fur into dense, painful layers that trap moisture, restrict movement, and slowly erode a dog's quality of life. It does not happen overnight, and that is what makes it so dangerous. Because by the time most owners notice the problem, the matting has already tightened around sensitive areas of the skin and begun to pull at the very structure of the body beneath. Behind this visible suffering lies a deeper biological consequence that many pet owners never not consider, including skin infections, restricted blood flow, and escalating stress responses that mirror chronic discomfort in humans. As the matting worsens, the dog's body begins to adapt in ways that are not adaptive at all, creating a hidden crisis beneath the surface that most people never witness until it becomes severe enough to require medical intervention. According to Dr. Karen Becker, this progression is not just a grooming issue, but a systemic health concern that can influence circulation, immune response, and even a dog's emotional well-being in profound and lasting ways. At first glance, an owner might only see tangled fur and assume it is a simple grooming delay. But beneath that surface lies a tightening web that presses against the skin with increasing force, trapping heat, moisture, and bacteria in a way that quietly accelerates damage over time. Over time, what begins as minor discomfort evolves into persistent pain, and the dog's natural movement becomes restricted as the mats pull tighter with every step, turning ordinary activities like walking, stretching, or resting into sources of strain. This stage often marks the turning point where infection risk rises sharply, as trapped debris and moisture create an environment where bacteria and yeast thrive, silently deepening the damage beneath the fur. Yet what remains unseen by most owners is how quickly this condition can escalate into a full medical emergency when the skin beneath the mats begins to break down, leaving the body vulnerable to infection, inflammation, and systemic stress responses that quietly compromise the dog's overall health in ways that are not immediately visible, but are steadily progressing toward a critical threshold that often surprises even experienced caregivers when they finally uncover the true extent of the trimmage hidden beneath the coat and ultimately reveals the severity of neglect that could have been prevented through consistent care and early intervention practices in veterinary settings and homes. When the reality of severe matting finally comes into full view, it often feels less like a grooming issue and more like uncovering a medical condition that has been silently developing in the background for weeks or even months. The second stage of this hidden progression is where the true cost of neglect begins to reveal itself in measurable physical damage that extends far beyond the surface of the coat. The skin beneath tightly packed mats becomes deprived of normal airflow, creating a warm, damp environment where microorganisms flourish unchecked. This leads to chronic irritation, localized infections, and in many cases, painful lesions that deepen as the mats continue to tighten with every movement the dog makes. Dr. Karen Becker has long emphasized that skin is the body's largest organ, and when it is compromised in this way, the effects are never isolated. They ripple outward into the immune system, the nervous system, and even behavioral responses that reflect ongoing discomfort. A dog experiencing this level of matting may begin to withdraw, avoiding touch or movement, not out of behavioral defiance, but as a protective response to constant pain. What appears to be lethargy is often the body conserving energy in the face of persistent stress. In severe cases, mats can form so tightly around joints and limbs that they physically restrict motion, altering the dog's natural gait and placing strain on muscles and connective tissues that were never designed to compensate for such resistance. Over time, this unnatural restriction can lead to inflammation in joints and secondary musculoskeletal issues that further reduce mobility and quality of life. There is also a psychological burden that develops alongside the physical damage, as dogs begin to associate movement, handling, and even rest with discomfort. This is where the situation becomes particularly alarming, because what started as neglected grooming transforms into a cycle of pain, stress, and reduced resilience. Suspense builds in these cases when owners finally realize that beneath the matted exterior, the skin may already be infected or even necrotic in localized areas, requiring immediate veterinary intervention and sometimes sedation for safe removal of the hardened coat. At this stage, the cost is no longer just emotional or cosmetic. It becomes medical, urgent, and significantly more complex than routine grooming. Treatment often involves clipping away entire layers of compacted fur, cleaning infected skin, administering antibiotics, and carefully managing pain responses that have been building for an extended period without relief. Dr. Karen Becker often highlights that these situations are entirely preventable, yet they continue to occur because early warning signs are missed or underestimated. The most striking truth is that the body always communicates distress long before it reaches crisis, but matting masks those signals until they are impossible to ignore, turning what could have been a simple grooming routine into a profound lesson about awareness, responsibility, and the hidden consequences of neglect that unfold slowly but relentlessly beneath the surface until intervention becomes the only path forward. At the final stage of severe matting, the situation often reaches a point where the damage is no longer subtle or developing, but fully established across both the physical and emotional state of the dog. What once began as a simple lack of grooming has now evolved into a condition that affects nearly every system in the body, revealing just how deeply connected external care is to internal health. In this stage, movement becomes increasingly difficult, not only because of the weight and tightness of the mats, but because the skin underneath has often become inflamed, infected, or painfully sensitive to even the slightest contact. Each step a dog takes can feel like pulling against its own body, as if the coat has become a rigid structure instead of a flexible layer designed for protection and comfort. Dr. Karen Becker often emphasizes that this is where neglect transforms into suffering that is entirely preventable, yet profoundly impactful, because the body begins to operate in survival mode rather than balance. The immune system becomes strained as it continuously responds to infections trapped beneath the matted fur, while the nervous system remains in a heightened state of discomfort that the dog cannot escape or regulate on its own. Over time, this creates a cycle of exhaustion where the dog conserves energy simply to endure rather than to live actively and freely. In many cases, veterinary intervention becomes the only path forward, requiring careful sedation or extensive grooming procedures just to safely remove the hardened layers that have fused close to the skin. What is often shocking to owners is not just the severity of the matting itself, but the extent of hidden damage revealed once the coat is finally removed, exposing irritated skin, pressure sores, or areas where circulation has been compromised by prolonged constriction. The emotional impact of this moment is significant because it reflects a truth that is difficult to accept. The suffering developed gradually, quietly, and without dramatic warning signs that most people would recognize in time. Suspense in these cases often comes from the realization that the dog endured far more than was visible, adapting silently to discomfort that steadily reshaped its daily experience of life. Recovery, when it begins, is not immediate, as the skin must heal, inflammation must subside, and trust in handling must be gently rebuilt through patience and consistent care. Dr. Karen Becker teaches that prevention is always far less costly than treatment, not only in financial terms, but in the emotional toll it takes on both the animal and the caregiver once intervention becomes necessary. Regular grooming, early attention to small tangles, and mindful observation of coat changes are simple acts that prevent this entire cascade of suffering from ever taking hold. In the end, the lesson extends beyond grooming itself and speaks to a deeper responsibility in animal care, one that requires awareness, consistency, and compassion in equal measure. When we understand that a dog's coat is not separate from its health but a direct reflection of it, we begin to see how small daily actions can either protect or endanger the life beneath the fur. And in that understanding lies the true message of prevention, where care given early is not just maintenance, but a commitment to dignity, comfort, and a life free from avoidable pain. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.